Hi everyone, myself Varsha. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm giving introduction to Python. Every day I'll be making videos on Python and I'm trying to make it very efficient. First, I'll be explaining the concept with examples, then all the different interview questions, interview programs that is asked on this concept will also be explained. So every day give you minutes, keep learning and keep gaining knowledge. Introduction to Python. Python is a simple programming language and it was developed by Guido van Rossum and it was first released in 1991. And now the question that may arise is why the inventor of Python named it as Python. So the answer is he was a big fan of comedy television show Monty Python's Flying Circus. And in this, he picked one word, Python, and he named it as Python. So now I think you know why name Python came. It is not because of the snake Python. It is because he was a big fan of comedy television show Monty Python's Flying Circus and hence he named as Python. Python is very famous and it is very fast growing language. If you ask me why, the first reason is because it is very easy to learn. It is one of the most developer friendly programming language. And now even kids are learning Python so easily. So this is the first reason why it is very famous and fast growing language. The second reason is it is more general purpose programming language. Now I will explain what general purpose programming language means in detail. See, we have different category of programming languages. So now the question that comes is, how can you categorize a programming language? How programming language can be categorized? So the answer is you can categorize in many ways and one of the way is based on the purpose. So based on the purpose, we can categorize the programming language into two types. The first one is general purpose programming language and the next one is domain specific programming language. So what general purpose programming language means? What domain specific programming language means, I will explain. Before that, if I want to select which programming language I have to use, then it really depends on what purpose you're using for. So what is the purpose or what is the need for program development? Based on that, you will select which programming language can be used. To give example, say if I want to build embedded system applications, now I can go for either C programming or I can go for C++. Though Java can be used, though other programming language can be used, C and C++ is best. Similarly, when it comes to data science and machine learning AI, definitely Python is the powerful tool for that. So this is what it means whenever you have to select which programming language you have to use, it totally depends on the purpose of program development. So now I'll explain what is general purpose programming language means. So those programming language which is used for many domains, which is used for many purposes. So that is called as general purpose programming language. So those programming language which is designed for only specific domain, only for one purpose, they are called as domain specific programming language. To give few examples, Fortran and APL are the programming languages which can be used only for mathematical purpose. And ML Haskell is used for research work, and there is something called Lisp which is used for AI related work. So these were the example for domain specific programming languages. Another category of programming language was general purpose programming language. And general purpose programming languages are those languages which can be used in many domains. So I'll give example. See, these general purpose programming languages is not only used for one purpose. It can be used for many purposes. Say it can be used for mathematical calculation as well as research work, application development, and so on. So now I will say few programming languages and in various domains in which that one programming language can be used. First is Java. So Java is a programming language. It is called general purpose programming language because it is used in many domains. Say web development, it is also used in mobile application, it is used in game development and so on. Coming to C++, it is used for writing applications as well as developing system programs. Next comes the Python. The Python is used for developing both desktop as well as web application. It is also used for complex scientific and numerical application. And Python is providing a facilitate features on which we can do data analysis and data visualization. Thus helps in data science projects. So Python is the more powerful tool which is used for data science project. It is also used by AI and machine learning developers. So this is what general purpose programming language means. It is used in many domains. Now let's see the definition of Python. Python is an interpreted high-level general purpose programming language. You know what is general purpose programming language? So those programming language which is used in many domains is called general purpose programming language. High level is a nothing but a language which human can understand. Low level language is a language which machine can understand. That is machine level language, which is in the form of zeros and ones. So this language is understood by machine. So that is why it is called as machine level or low level. There is one more which is interpreted. So interpreted means what? I will be explaining later. Next point that you should remember is it supports both procedure oriented programming as well as object oriented programming. Even this in detail I will be explaining you. The last point that you have to remember is Python is a programming language. Also Python is scripting language. So what is the difference between programming language and scripting language? In detail I will explain that as well. Now let's understand what is the difference between procedure-oriented programming and object-oriented programming. The main difference is in terms of data security. So procedure-oriented programming will not provide data security, whereas object-oriented programming will provide data security. I'll give example. Procedure-oriented programming is C programming. So in C programming, there is no security. Why? Because there is no term, there is no concept of access modifier. Because there is no concept of access modifier which is present in procedure-oriented programming, there is no data security. Whereas in object oriented programming like Java, Python, there is a concept called access modifier. So where we will declare the variables and methods as private, public, or protected, and by declaring this we are achieving data security. When I make it as public, it is accessible to everyone. When I make it as private, it is accessible within the same class where other class cannot access it. When I make it protected, the other program can access it when it has parent-child relationship. So using this access modifier concept in Java, in Python, which is object oriented programming, we can achieve data security. Whereas in C programming, which is procedure oriented programming, there is everything public, everything can be accessed. So there is no data security. Now the question that comes is, okay, C is having no data security, then why C is still used? The answer is, I'll give one example and explain. Say you take a calculator. Say I want to develop calculator. So to develop calculator, I don't want any data security. So there is some applications where data security is not needed. The best example, as I told, it is calculator. Are you doing any transaction here? Are you sending some data via network? You are not doing anything. So there is no security required here. So where is C used then? C is used in embedded system designing. So this was the main difference between procedure oriented programming and object. So these are the other differences between procedure-oriented programming and object-oriented programming. See, you won't understand all the differences because at this point you don't know many concepts. So once you understand, once you watch my other videos and know the concepts, it will be easy for you to understand all the difference in clear way. So I will tell few differences which you can understand now, and remaining after I complete the concept I'll be explaining. So the first difference is based on how the program is divided. See, in procedure oriented programming, the program is divided into small functions, whereas in object oriented programming the program is divided into objects. So when we write a code, you will understand how the program is divided into objects. And here in procedure oriented, the importance is given to function. The importance is not given to data. Whereas in object oriented programming, the importance is given to data and there is no importance given to function. And when object oriented concept comes, you will understand why data is very important because it works in real world. So the next difference is based on the approach. So procedure oriented programming follow top down approach. If you have written C programming, you know first thing you write is main function, then the other function. So first execution starts from main function. So top down approach. Here first we have class, then we will have instance variable, then comes the function, then comes the main method. So that's why here bottom up approach. So the remaining differences, whatever is here, is not easy to understand at this point of time. But one I have already explained, there is no concept of access specifier in procedure oriented, and there is a concept of access specifier in object oriented programming. That is the reason data security is achieved in object-oriented programming, whereas data security is not achieved in procedure-oriented programming. So that was the other difference. And one more difference which you can understand at this point of time is expansion. So in procedure oriented programming, we cannot easily add new data, we cannot easily add new function. Whereas here in object oriented programming, we can easily add new data, we can easily add new function. The other difference is in procedure oriented programming, there is a restriction in terms of number of lines that you can write. So you can't write more number of lines in C programming, whereas in object oriented programming we can write any number of lines. So these were the other differences between procedure oriented programming and object oriented programming. Now you have understood what is the difference between procedure oriented programming and object oriented programming. So the one point that I had mentioned was Python supports both procedure oriented programming as well as object oriented programming. Now I think you can understand that it can be used in those applications where security does not matter, and also you can use in those applications where security is also very important. So the next point that I had mentioned was Python is a programming language as well as scripting language. So now let us understand the difference between programming language and scripting language. Before I explain this, say now if I want to build an app or if I want to create a web page, then I need three languages. If you ask me what are those, they are programming language, scripting language, and markup language. So what is markup language? I will tell first. So markup language, it does not have any logic. So if you want to add two numbers, you will write some logic. If you want to find a factorial of a number, if you want to find whether the number is prime number or not, these are just small examples that I'm giving to make you understand the concept. So for so these kind of things markup language cannot do. So what markup language does is it will just give you a structure for your data. So how your data has to look, how it has to be designed, how it has to be arranged in the web page. So that structure for your data is given using markup language. So that is why markup language is used. It is just used to give structure for your data. It does not have any logic. It does not have any algorithm. So moving ahead, let's understand the difference between programming language and scripting language. Here in this example, I have not mentioned Python because it might be confusing, because Python is a programming language. It is also a scripting language. So in previous slide, I explained what markup language is. So markup language is used to create a structure for my data. So here you can see this diagram. So this is how I want my web page to look like. So first I want my site title, then I want header image, then menu, then come all the posts and so on. So to create this structure, I will use the markup language. So now let us move ahead and understand what is the difference between programming language and scripting language. First, I will start by giving definition of programming language. So programming language is nothing but a set of instructions which will tell the computer what task it has to do. So what is scripting language then? Scripting language is also a set of instructions which will tell the computer what task it has to do. Then what is the difference? See, scripting language is also a programming language. It is a type of programming language, or in other words, it is a subcategory of programming language. So the difference lies in where it has been used. Yes, so where you use programming language and where you use scripting language, that is where you can see the difference between these two, programming language and scripting language. So programming language is used for building the entire software application. If you want to build the software application, then you have to use programming language and you will be writing the code from scratch. Whereas in scripting language, you are not using it to build the complete software application. You will be using this to control the built software application which you have written using programming language. So programming language, you are writing to build the complete software application, and scripting language you are using to control that software application. So to make you understand still more better, see, this is a software application. To build a software application, you will be using programming language. And now scripting language, why we are using is, scripting language is used to control the software application that you have built. Okay, so now look at this search bar. So example, say now I have created this web page using HTML, and whenever I click on this search, I want it to display my some image or something. So this is my requirement. So HTML is the program inside that, or I will be writing JavaScript code. That is the JavaScript is a scripting language. I'll be writing a code where for which when I click on the search, it has to display an image. So this JavaScript code is controlling the other program, that is the HTML program here. So there are various way I can link this JavaScript code that I have written when I click to display the image. In various way I can link. I can put it inside HTML code, or I can write separate JavaScript code and link it by giving the path of the JavaScript code. So I think now you understood the difference between the programming language, scripting language and markup language. So let us move ahead and understand few more difference between the programming language and scripting language. Let's now see the other difference between programming language and scripting language. So programming language will be using a software called compiler, and hence it is compiler based language. Whereas scripting language will be using a software called interpreter, hence it is called interpreter based language. And here compilation is necessary, whereas in scripting language compilation is not necessary. So these scripting language, since compilation is not needed, it will directly be interpreted. So the program will run in a special runtime environment, and that will automate the execution of task. So what compiler does, so compiler will execute, so that here in scripting language you no need to compile the code, you can directly execute. So here what happens, it will be running in a special runtime environment where it will automate this execution of task. So that was the difference. The next I will tell the example of this. So JavaScript is an example for scripting language. So as I already told you, this JavaScript code, we can link to HTML in various ways. We can put it inside HTML, or we can write a separate JavaScript code, and in HTML code we can specify the path of that JavaScript code. So this is how we can link JavaScript with HTML. And once that is done, it is interpreted by the browser. So this JavaScript code is interpreted by the browser, and hence it requires a host. So this was the next difference, and the last difference, it is common he understood that this programming language is complex because you are building the complete application, so you're building it from the scratch, so the number of lines is more, whereas here you're just used to control specific tasks. Say if you, for example, if you click on search, it has to display some image, so only like that, so it requires very less number of lines. So these were the difference between the programming language and scripting language. Now, the second point that I had mentioned, that Python is a programming language as well as scripting language. So that is why Python is very famous and popular. Next is the most interesting concept, whether Python is interpreted language or whether it is compiled, or is it both. So this is the confusion most of us have. So today I'll be clarifying it. See, if you want to know whether the programming language is interpreted or whether the programming language is compiled, then you should know this fact that whether it is interpreted or whether it is compiled language, it is not the property of the language. It is the property of implementation. I think you might not be clear with this. See, it is very simple. It means that to know whether any programming language is compiled or interpreted, you should understand the implementation, how the language is implemented. So that you should understand. So to know whether Python is interpreted language or Python is compiled language, for that we should understand how this Python is implemented. So let us see that first. So look at this diagram. We have a source code, and what happens is the Python is implemented in such a way that it will directly give us the bytecode. See here, it will directly it will directly give the bytecode. But internally, automatically this compilation step will be done by Python itself. We user need not do compilation step. So that is how it is implemented. So it is implemented in such a way that we need not do compilation step. We will automatically directly get this bytecode, and we will give this bytecode to this virtual machine, and this virtual machine, which Python for Python is PVM, so that will use the libraries, and it will link the libraries, and it will execute. So this is how the implementation of Python is done. So that is why Python is interpreted language. It is not compiled language, because compilation we are not doing. It is implemented in such a way that compilation is automatically done, and we no need to do compilation. We just will directly get bytecode. We have to interpret it. So I think you're clear with this concept. Now I will go back to the definition of Python. Now you will understand these 3 points very clearly because I've explained very deep. So Python is an interpreter. It is not compiled, and you know why? It is high level general purpose programming language. You know what is general purpose programming language? It is used for wide range of domains. So Python supports both procedure oriented programming as well as object oriented programming. Python is a programming language as well as scripting language. So this was my video on introduction to Python. If you like my video, do like and subscribe for regular updates. Alternate days I will be coming up with new Python videos on coding. So I will make it very efficient way, so that once the theory concept is explained, I will explain all the interview programs that can be asked. So it will be very beneficial. Do subscribe and get the updates. Thank you.